Why are we here today, Olav?
Well, thanks for your question. And the short answer to your question really is we're here today to connect and to share insights, share learnings, share outlook.
Last week you told me something like, Erik, I have the impression that the acceleration will take place this year, and the acceleration was not last year. Can you explain a little bit what you meant with that?
Well, you know, when we got into this COVID crisis, we all thought is a big disruptor. I don't think it's a big disruptor. I think it's a big accelerator. It accelerates good things, it accelerates bad things that we need to stop doing. In the first couple of months when we thought, okay, this is a pandemic, this is bad, but maybe in summer it will be over. I'm quite convinced when it would have been over in the summer that we would return back to what we always have done. And now, a year in lockdown for the most of us, I think true acceleration and true change is taking place in many, many ways.
Let's take a quick look at what Graeme has to tell us about how the future is going to look like. Maybe it's good, Graeme, to come in right now.
Hi there, and greetings from a wonderfully sunny and summery South Africa. Although I suppose I could be anywhere. That's the point of this new virtual world that we live in. Could even be from the future. That's what I do for a living. I try and understand how the world is changing and what the future will be like. In fact, in the last few months, one of the most exciting things I found is this little device. I definitely think this is from the future, even though it's available now. But if you want to find out what it is, you'll have to stay till the end of the webinar. What I've been doing over the last few months is trying to understand what the lasting legacy of this COVID disruption will be. One of the legacies is that we have to have webinars like this and can't meet together in person. And I think that we are going to see that that is going to last beyond the end of COVID. COVID is not just going to be a disruptor that eventually is over and we all get back to normal. It's actually changing the way that we engage with the world. Let me give you a good example. This is Anne Hidalgo, who last year was re-elected actually, the mayor of Paris, with a promise that she would bring a green and sustainable agenda to Paris. I think we've already seen some of the results of that in her plans to turn the Champs-Élysées into a pedestrian walkway. But one of her big promises was that the Olympics in 2024 would be plastic free. Now, you can imagine suppliers to the Olympics freaking out a little bit about that. I've got clients like Nestle, Kraft Heinz, Coca-Cola, Unilever, who initially freaked out about that. But let's be honest, they're not really freaked out because they've got plenty of time before 2024 to make those adjustments. The point is that Mayor Hidalgo said it was on the basis of a COVID mindset that she felt that she could do this. COVID was a global emergency that we responded to within a matter of weeks, changing people's behaviors and government regulations in order to deal with a global emergency. If climate change, sustainability, plastic pollution are all global emergencies, then why can't we use the same logic to deal with them? We don't have to take 10, 15, 20 years to roll out our sustainability plans. We can deal with them in an emergency mindset. I think that's going to impact every part of our lives, that thinking. I do think it's going to impact business travel. Yes, we are missing getting together face to face. Yes, maybe something like this would be good to have at a venue that we all fly around the world and meet together. But maybe that's unnecessary, and I'm pretty certain that business travel is not going to get back to the levels that it was before COVID, because I think that many of us have discovered while some meetings might need to happen face to face, a lot of meetings don't. And we're never going to travel as much or as far as we used to.
Olav, Graeme is telling us business travel is not going to come back like it used to be. So less jet lag for you, or how do you see that? What about your trip to St. Louis and back?
Yeah, I think he's right. Although I also think that Zoom or Teams or whatever you use, meetings cannot replace human interaction. So I think we end up in the middle. We will definitely do less travel.
Thanks, Olav. Over to you, Jaqui. If you listen to Graeme and how he is more or less taking us by the hand towards where the world is going right now, you as a passionate professional, what is your key takeaway from all this, what Graeme is telling us? Jaqui, can you elaborate a bit?
Yeah, thanks, Erik. I think I really loved what Graeme said about the COVID mindset and about this emergency mindset. I mean, our industry's been striving towards digitization for a number of years and getting ready for digitization, but it hasn't been adopted. And I think what we're seeing now is this acceleration of, it's been an emergency acceleration in a sense. And those companies that have been ready for the digital wave have been able to make a success of it. So, for example, one of our clients has just experienced a 5-fold increase in their sales figures since the beginning of last year. And that would have not happened had COVID not hit. So I think there are some silver linings. What we're also seeing as a silver lining, perhaps, of COVID is this idea that awareness of risk has increased. So people have become a lot more aware of the risk of losing family members, the risk of losing their job, for example, due to disease or illness.
Yeah, risk in your industry is, I think, a key component, isn't it? But then again, it's not an objective thing. I think it's more the perception of risk than anything else, is it?
Absolutely.
Do you see differences in countries or regions or maybe generations? How does that work? What's your vision there? Can you share?
Yes, I think, Erik, probably the best example is maybe my background working in South Africa and then moving to Japan and then now working in the EU. It's been a fascinating journey. So, for example, the perception of risk in a country like South Africa is just completely different to a country like Japan. In South Africa, obviously, the accidental rates are so much higher. In countries like Japan, they're much more concerned about cancer, just as an example. So there's definitely a difference in perception. And I think what's quite nice about our virtual world that we're living in now is that we have access to people across the world. So previously, we might not have as easily connected across countries, and now COVID has almost forced that, which is fantastic from a talent perspective to have access to talent from different geographies that bring creativity from different parts of the world.
If I look at myself and my kids, when I came way back in the last century to the marketplace, I was worrying about two things: salary, job title, and then I would work very hard and make a career, and that's it. If I look at my kids, who are Generation Z children, I think they have way more needs, and hence their risk perception is also different. How do you see that?
Absolutely, Erik. I think you're spot on there. I think what younger people expect from the industry, from financial services, is that it needs to be in line with the experience that they experience with other providers, like Amazon, like Apple. So it really puts an onus on us as an industry to respond to their needs, to make sure that the products that we provide, the solutions that we build, are responsive, are relevant. For example, wellness, right? So wellness has been something, it's been in existence for a number of years. South Africa was the leader of the wellness industry, but now we're really starting to see that it's become very, very popular, especially in the younger generation, to have products that add value and give back to them throughout the policy life cycle, not just at the outset when you take out the policy and then at the end when you unfortunately claim.
Yeah, thanks Jaqui. Real quick, Olav, over to you, because I think my kids are Generation Z. I think you have 2 millennials at home, at home in your family.
Yes.
If you put yourself in their shoes.
I would echo what Jaqui just said, and I think they're much more conscious of things like work-life balance. Both of my kids are self-employed. They kind of almost never had the ambition to go for the job title and the salary, and they're doing really well, but they make different choices. They're much more aware of the environment and asking us questions, basically, what have you done? And I think that's another question that we should ask ourselves as an industry, but also as a human being. As a major of Paris, she can tell she made a difference.
I get your point. In RGA, how do you adapt with your own organization to this changing world Graeme is talking about?
People sometimes say, yeah, well, adapting is a problem, whatever. And I think, well, look back, we adapted, and many of our clients, it's not a unique feature for RGA. Many of our clients changed their business model to an online business model. So I think the resilience and the adaptation to new circumstances has been huge.
I can imagine making business decisions every day. How do you make the assessment in terms of, okay, this is what we're going to bring forward, and this so-called opportunity here, better to be safe than sorry, we let go of that. How does that work at the executive table, Olav? I think it's not easy.
If your mission is to make no mistakes, you'd better look for a job where you can make no mistakes. So I don't know the answer to your question, because sometimes the hardest thing is, what do we think is a trend, a longer lasting trend in technology, in medical improvements, in consumer behavior, etc., and what is more or less a one-off.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see very promising new initiatives in the market where we think, oh, this is super cool. But the next question, can we replicate it? Can we replicate it in other markets? If the answer is no, we probably should move on.
Yeah, makes sense. Jaqui, real quick, innovation is, I think, a big chunk of what you're supposed to do when you're busy developing markets. Building on what Olav is just sharing with us, how do you deal with that?
That's a really good question, Erik, and I think that, for me, I think it starts with why. Why are we doing it? If you think about, take for example diabetic lives, or take anyone with a chronic condition. In the past, it was very difficult for them to get cover, and a lot of people that have chronic conditions manage their condition really, really well. And so the way that we have to start thinking about it as an industry is, how can we make sure that we incentivize people that are managing their conditions well to continue managing their conditions well? How can we gather that data on them on a real-time basis and make sure that they've got access to very much needed cover? So if you think about someone wanting to buy a house, and this is a very important need for insurance. You buy a house, with that house you typically take out life insurance to cover your mortgage. Now, if you've got a chronic condition and you aren't able to get that mortgage, it really impacts you and your family. So I think innovation needs to have a reason and a purpose. So we start, at RGAX, we start with why.
Thanks, Jaqui. Okay, I think it's time for us to listen to what Graeme Codrington has to share with us on man versus machine. Graeme, over to you.
I painted a picture of us integrating with machines in the future, initially having implants, but there might be a picture by the end of this decade of human-machine hybrids. Whether that's right or not, or whether the timeline is correct or not, what is going to happen through the 2020s is that more and more we are going to have robots coming into our workplaces. And by robots, let's not have the wrong picture. I'm not thinking of humanoid robots that sort of walk around the office. I'm thinking about robotic automation and algorithms. We're going to have AI-driven, machine learning-enabled predictive data analytics that produce algorithms and apps that can do a lot of the work that human beings do right now. And so the question for us as human beings is not, can we compete with the machines? Because the answer is no. The machines are going to be faster than us, they're going to be stronger than us, they're going to be smarter than us in the sense that they can do what they're told and do it the same way, do it right, do it fast every single time. The question then has to be, what is it that people can do that machines can't? What is it that are specifically human skills? Of course, the obvious answers include things like innovation and creativity. Eventually, I think the machines will catch up with us on that, but maybe not in our lifetimes. I think there are other things like empathy and emotion and care. And while computers might be able to be trained to approximate the feeling of empathy and care, I don't think they will ever replace human beings in our ability to be human, our ability to connect, to have relationships, to have emotions and connect with other people. So I think that there are some significant answers to the question, what is it that people can do that machines can't? And I think therein lies the secret of how we need to be thinking about the years ahead. Let the machines do what the machines do best, and let people do what people do best. And find not a competition between the two, but find a way in which we get the best of both worlds by working together.
Jaqui, what role do you see in your industry for artificial intelligence, technology, and algorithms?
Absolutely, Erik. Data and analytics plays a huge role in our industry and is becoming increasingly important. If we just think about the number of data scientists we hired 10 years ago versus now, it's a multiple fold of compared to 10 years ago. And certainly, almost all of the solutions that we're building nowadays include some element of predictive analytics, of machine learning. So it's prevalent, it's prominent, it's increasing, it's here, it's already here.
As an industry leader, you have the responsibility to take the lead in this, isn't it? You cannot just sit and wait. You have to move forward. And then I always think, when you have to move forward, then go with energy, go with optimism. Is that also how you see for the next 2-3 years a huge surge in innovation for your company?
I think so, Erik. I think what we are definitely seeing is a lot of innovation around our core business. So really looking at the core business, understanding the challenges and the problems that we need to solve now, and how we can innovate to create that change. Certainly we are looking outside beyond 5 years at the innovations that we expect our industry to face, but certainly a lot of innovation that we're working on now is current innovation. Business processes, robotic process automation, for example.
Yeah, good to hear. And I take it you do that in close cooperation with your clients, because that's how innovation often is born, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think we really do start with why, and it's around understanding the end customer's needs. So take, for example, the changing nature of work. We know that the younger generation don't necessarily work in office space. Well, none of us work in office spaces over the last 12 months. But even before that, you know, we know that younger people typically have a lot of freelance roles. There's the gig economy. We need to be thinking about solutions that cater to those kinds of roles, the changing nature of work.
Yeah. Yesterday I read in the paper that Elon Musk is again stressing the potential danger of AI. Do you guys discuss that at the executive table, that topic?
Yes, we do. But I think I'm with Graeme. I'm not of the belief that computers will take over the world, will replace human interaction, etc., etc. But I do think there's a tremendous shift, or if you like, transition going on in technology.
Yeah.
We're able, speaking of AI, we're able to develop a vaccine for COVID in a very, very short time frame, where it not so long ago took years. So that is acceleration.
One more thing on this man-machine discussion, because I like it a lot. And when we talked in previous occasions on leadership, we talked about the importance of decisiveness, of resourcefulness. I can imagine that resourcefulness, that we can maybe outsource a little bit more to machines, but decisiveness, not so sure.
Well, the answer lies in how quickly can we adapt new technology, and how quickly can we implement new technology. And I don't want to spoil this party, but your question reminds me of my friend Rob. And my friend Rob worked for many years with Microsoft. And he said, yeah, listen, we have excellent speech technology for 10, 15 years. It works brilliant. He said, but in every office, people are keying in words.
Well, maybe that's a nice bridge to going back to Graeme, because initially in the first part, he has this really cool gadget that he showed us. And I think that's maybe the technology that is coming right to us. Graeme, could you explain and elaborate a little bit more on that cool gadget?
So, if you've stuck around to the end of this webinar to find out what on earth this was, it is a rather remarkable thing. It is basically a real-time MRI scanner. Now, yes, it's in its initial stages, but the idea is that just like you would go and get an MRI scan at a hospital with all that very, very expensive equipment, now you can actually buy an MRI scanner that works at home, literally just plugs into a USB cable into your computer. And the idea is that you can now do real-time MRI scanning, which is, in other words, scanning your brain patterns in real time. If there are very discernible, significant brain patterns that are associated with particular sensations or thoughts that you have, we should be able to convert those brain patterns into readable instructions that can then program your computer to do something. Right now, you could probably argue it's more of a toy, but in 5-10 years' time, I wonder whether we will be able to buy a device at home that can actually read our brain waves, discern our brain patterns into words, and allow us to control our computers using just our thoughts.
Olav, if we would scan your brain pattern right now, what would happen? What would pop up, Olav? But yeah, maybe you don't want to reveal that. But
yeah, that would be disappointing. But there is not so much there. And I've, as a gadget freak, I find this very, very interesting. I'd like to see, and I've said it many times, I'd like to see a company and even a society as a system of conversations. And it's the quality of the conversations that will determine how successful you will be, or how, maybe even how happy you will be, or how fulfilling life you will have. It's all about a system of conversations.
What is your key takeaway for today, Olav?
I think the key takeaway, as we started this conversation, and I really like this conversation, we said it's to kind of connect and share, which we did. But I think the most important takeaway is that we urge our viewers and ourselves to embrace the change.
For you, Jaqui, if you look back in this session, what was best for you today?
I think, Erik, the most insightful part for me was hearing Olav talk about last year and how, had this been a 3-month incident, would it really have shaken us up? Would it really have shaken up our world? And I think perhaps not. I think the fact that coronavirus has lasted, this long, and we've really had to make significant changes within our lives, within our companies. That's really brought upon a lot of this acceleration and change. And I think, of course, also the headset impressed me. And I think my biggest worry is obviously what would happen if I put it on my head. I think it would send out 17 emails at once. So
okay,
that's a bit scary.
Thanks, Jaqui, for your answer. Really great. Dear viewers, thank you for connecting with us today, and I hope to see you soon. Stay safe, stay sane, and have a great day. Thank you very much.